All right, let's provoke some people. Giving and taking, or as I like to call it, which is closer to the true nature of the universe, giving and another kind of giving. So you probably heard it a bunch of times from business people or hippies that everything is abundance and the universe is abundant and you have to be in abundance. And it's kind of become like a cliche and a buzzword that people overuse or misuse. But it is actual truth. And if you look at nature, which is how someone presented it when I started trying to get more into this, nature is so radically abundant. Like, of course, if you're a specific species or specimen, yeah, maybe you'll get eaten. Maybe you won't find food. Maybe it'll be rainy when you needed it to be dry. But as a whole, like what would happen if a city that we've built as humans was completely abandoned? We left it there for, I don't know, depending on how urban it is, how green it is, somewhere between 50 and 200 years. It would be covered in nature, right? It would be completely overgrown with grass and trees, and depending on where it is, it would turn into a forest or a rainforest or some stuff. So what I'm trying to say is nature always grows and thrives, and there's always plenty and there's always enough. And it regulates itself because it's an incredibly complex ecosystem. But there's never lack. There's never true scarcity when you look at the whole picture. The only way to experience that would be to leave Earth, right? And even then, depending on where you go, you're probably going to find more systems that are equally dynamic, complex, and in their own way somehow overflowing with their own kind of abundance. Because if they weren't, they wouldn't exist. So we have like space where there's nothing, and then we have things that are full of things and that are always in motion. Okay, so where did we get it, the idea from that we have to take and that we need and that there's not enough and that we need to fight for stuff because it's not enough for everyone? Well, obviously from our society and our experiences as civilized humans living a really fake life that has nothing to do with the rest of the planet. And I know for most people it's not really that easy or desirable or even practicable to just step out and be like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the roots and live in nature now and live that life and experience that abundance for myself. And most of us wouldn't even know how to. We'd probably die within a week. But if you manage to do that, as is shown in so many films, like, so much stuff, like, what is it? Is it Tom Sawyer? Robinson Crusoe? Castaway? Captain Fantastic? Into the Wild? You know, of course it's going to be one of the most amazing experiences because that's where we came from, that's what we're made of. And you would have everything you need, always, as long as you know what to do and you're willing to do it and you're smart about it. And yeah, of course, it's an element of luck. That's always going to be the case. So, yeah, the solution maybe is not for everyone just to go into the wild and rewild themselves and turn into Mowgli. Another one, Jungle Book, Tarzan. But can we take that concept and bring it into our stupid society that is built upon competition and dividing and conquering? And obviously there are a lot of challenges given our virus-like nature that we just exponentiate, and we're billions and we're going to become more and more billions. But I still believe in abundance. I believe that if we're careful with how we use our resources, if we're respectful, if we're conscious of this connectedness and complexity, and that there isn't actually scarcity, then we can trust and settle into a natural balance. We would become part of the global balance. And you can start with this on a very small scale. Just think about what you're doing in everyday life. what do you do for work, what your finances look like, how you're spending your time. Are you going and getting for yourself and storing and keeping and holding? Or are you in some sort of flow? Are you giving? I'm also not necessarily advocating that you just spend all your time giving, because that's probably also unhealthy, as with most extremes. But I do think if we all gave, then we would all receive. Makes sense. It's maths. Yeah, so that's why I say life is a give and give, because this taking, receiving, in essence, is just someone else giving to you, or something else giving to you. And I really believe that we're such a connected system being on this planet, that that's kind of like my version of karma. It's nothing wishy-washy, nothing woo-woo. It's just if you input to a system, you've added something, and that's gonna come back. Of course, it also didn't come from nowhere. You created it from your own sources, and those sources, maybe it created a slight depletion in yourself, and this depletion is going to be compensated, it's going to be filled back up. It's like thermodynamics. So every time you give, you will receive. Law. That's a great section on this. Sorry to quote him again, but I just love that book so much. Gawdat's Solve for Happy. And yeah, so for me, when I see people being all materialistic or selfish, or just self-centered, it's actually a sign for a lack of reflection, maybe even intelligence. But how did you define intelligence? So to me, it just shows they're not self-reflected, they're not connected to the whole, mentally, rationally, physically, with their actions, and they're not necessarily contributing to a better world. Of course, there are life phases. In my case, I often consider whether it wouldn't be maybe smarter to focus on personal gain and becoming really materially successful, so that I can then give. And you can totally do it that way, but it's just so hard for me to forget about this natural law that I'd rather get there by giving. And actually, you get there a lot quicker and in ways that are much better by giving. Help others and you'll be helped. Generate wealth and value and flow, and you will benefit from that yourself, obviously, because you're in the middle of it. It's coming from you. Yeah, so this also doesn't mean that bad stuff won't happen to good people, obviously. But then again, you can zoom out and see, okay, even though that bad stuff happened to those people, as a whole, it doesn't make the universe evil. Well, that's of course my personal belief. There's this quote that says it's one of the most important choices you make. I've quoted this before. Whether you believe the universe is benign or malicious. So that's my 2 cents for today. Try to figure out what it looks like for you, what you're currently doing, and what you would like to be doing instead. And remember, we're all part of this complex system, and even if you want to make it about you, the best way to do that is by not making it about you. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.